Post 1. Am I the jerk for refusing to fund my girlfriend's trial separation and going to HR? I am a male in my early 30s, and my job is a big part of my life. I manage a team and carry a book of clients that keeps 3 departments busy. I work late during launches, I answer emails quickly, and I am the person who builds the plan everyone else follows. At home, I pay most of the rent from my account, I cover the utilities so there are no surprises, and I am the one who remembers renewals and insurance. My girlfriend used to tell friends that my steadiness was her favorite thing about me. In the last 6 months, she started calling it corporate. The word sits in my stomach like a pebble. 3 nights ago, she asked for an honest conversation with no phones. I knew that phrasing meant bad news. We sat at the table and she talked about being brave and telling the truth. She said she has feelings for someone from her running club. She said it started as accountability, turned into chemistry, and now she wants to see where it goes. She kept saying, see where it goes, like it was a crosswalk and my job was to stand there holding her bag. She proposed a trial separation. She would get a small studio for a few months, but wanted me to keep our apartment stable. Her phrase, stable. She asked me to keep rent and utilities in my name and to spot her studio deposit so she could move quickly. She said this was not betrayal, just growth, and that part of loving her would be supporting that growth. She also said she is not trying to be cruel. She just does not want to lie to me. I felt my face go numb while my heart pounded like I'd sprinted up the stairs. I asked how long this has been happening. She said it got emotional in the spring and physical once 2 weeks ago. She said she did not want it to be a secret thing and that I should appreciate her honesty. I kept my voice even because I knew if I cried or raised it, that would become the headline. I told her I am not willing to be in an open relationship. If she wants to date him, I am not her boyfriend. I said I will not bankroll a second household. I offered a calm, boring alternative. We can keep paying our current bills in our current proportions until we agree on a move-out date, then separate utilities and do a final settlement with screenshots. I said we should keep all logistics in text and email so we do not misunderstand each other. She stared at me like she had discovered a flaw in a product. Then she said very softly, that it is sad I cannot imagine love being abundant. She added that maybe people at my office think I am put together because I hold a calendar, but they do not know how rigid I am when it counts. Then she said the sentence that has not stopped buzzing in my head since. She said, if I keep being difficult, she will have to tell people at my work who I really am. She said there are words for controlling behavior, and HR departments listen when women speak up. I sat there and watched that idea land, and I could feel my spine try to collapse. I asked what that means. She said it means words have power. She said I should not push her into a corner. I felt sick. I told her again I am not paying a studio deposit and I am not maintaining 2 homes. I said if she wants to separate, we will do it cleanly and in writing. I thanked her for telling me the truth about the other man. I meant it in a very narrow way. She rolled her eyes and said she would send me listings. I did what I do when my head spins. I wrote down the timeline while it was sharp. I wrote exactly what she said in the time she said she would tell people at work who I really am. I screenshotted our rent payment history and the lease end date. I sent myself an email with those screenshots because paper lives longer than feelings. I did not send that email to anyone else. It is not a threat. It is how I keep my own memory honest. The next morning, she texted me 3 studios with heart emojis and asked me to send the deposit so she would not miss out. I replied that I will keep paying our current bills as we have been paying them until we agree on a move-out date, but I will not fund a second household. She said I was being punitive. I said I was being clear. She said she might tell a colleague of mine what is happening because women look out for each other and my company should know the kind of man they employ. I read that text and felt my hands go cold. It has been 2 days and I still feel the cold in my fingers when I type. Friends from her group chat jumped in over the last 24 hours. I am in that chat for rides and planning. I woke up to a string of messages about how modern couples try new models and how my refusal to help with a deposit is financial control. A person I have met twice wrote that if I really loved her, I would support her honesty. I muted the thread and sent her a private text that said, our finances should stay between us and in writing. Today at work, my stomach did a slow flip when a calendar hold appeared for a coffee chat with someone in HR that I do not know well. It turned out to be about an onboarding survey that my team is helping pilot, but seeing the letters HR on my screen after her threat made me feel like my chair was tilting. I filled out the survey and smiled politely, and then sat in my car at lunch and counted my breaths. I know my job. I know my reputation at work. I also know one email with scary words can change how people look at you for a long time. I keep second-guessing whether I am overreacting. I am not yelling. I am not trashing her online. I am not contacting the other man. I am offering a fair split on our current lease, moving logistics to text and email, and refusing to pay her deposit. Those choices feel adult and also cold. I hear my mother's voice saying, I am counting instead of caring. Then I hear my manager's voice saying, documentation is kindness when there is conflict because it spares people from guessing. Two different definitions of kindness, and I am stuck between them. I can imagine paying the deposit just to stop the noise. I can also clearly see the version of me who does that, and then lies awake at 2 a.m., hating himself and waiting for the other shoe to drop. I do not want to buy a week of quiet and a month of self-contempt. So here I am. My girlfriend wants a trial separation with me paying most bills while she tries a relationship with a man from her running club. I declined, offered a clean wind down in writing, and she hinted she will tell people at my work that I am controlling if I do not make this easy. I feel shaky and also stubborn. I want to do the right thing without lighting my life on fire. Am I the jerk for refusing to fund a studio and for moving everything to text and email when she says she might talk to HR about me if I hold the line? Comment 1, not the jerk. Trial separation that you fund is not kindness, it is self-harm. Keep it in writing, set a move-out timeline, and document the threat. If anything lands with HR, you will want dates and neutral language ready. Comment 2, you are doing the boring, smart thing. Do not pay the deposit. Do not negotiate with hints about HR. Offer a fair split on current obligations only, and let the calendar do its work. Update 1. Some people asked if I had receipts or if I exaggerated her comment about telling people at work who I really am. I did not record her. I did write the timeline that night, and I moved every logistics conversation into text. I am trying to be boring and precise. It is the only way I know how to keep my hands from shaking. Yesterday morning, the ambush arrived. Subject line in my work inbox, concern regarding hostile conduct. It came from a generic HR case address, not a person. The body read like a compliance training slide. A concern had been raised alleging controlling behavior, financial coercion, and retaliation after a partner disclosed a relationship. It asked me to confirm a time for a preliminary conversation and reminded me not to discuss the matter with colleagues. I sat very still and read it twice. Then I opened the folder on my desktop and added 2 things. My timeline email to myself and screenshots of our text thread, where I decline the studio deposit and propose a proportional split on current bills until a move-out date. I replied to HR in short sentences. I said I am aware of a potential conflict of interest between my personal life and my workplace reputation. I said I would like to meet with an HR generalist and, if appropriate, with employee relations. I attached a clean packet, the timeline, the lease end page, and 3 text screenshots with nothing editorial in them. One shows her asking me to spot the studio deposit. One shows me declining and offering a fair split on current obligations. One shows her hinting that people at my work should know who I am if I do not make this easy. I asked HR to confirm receipt. I felt like I had swallowed a cube of ice. By lunch, the social pressure started. The friends chat that I am in for event planning lit up with messages about how men use money to control women and how the workplace should protect people from financial abusers. My name did not appear in the first 5 messages. It showed up in the 6th with a sentence that said, "He is the type who looks innocent at work." I muted the thread. A mutual sent me a screenshot and a private message with the note, "They are trying to make it sound like a pattern." I wrote back, "Thank you. I am keeping this in a folder. I will not engage." My girlfriend texted that she has decided it is best to move out sooner and therefore I should send the studio deposit by end of day. She wrote, "We can avoid dragging work into this if you just help me land." My hands went cold again reading that. I replied, I am not paying a studio deposit. I will continue paying our current bills in the same proportions until we agree on a move-out date. Please keep logistics in text and email. She sent back, you are choosing consequences. The distance between those 5 words in the HR email did not feel accidental. HR scheduled me for a same-day preliminary conversation with a generalist and an employee relations partner. They asked me to confirm my reporting chain and whether anyone in my personal life had professional overlap with me. I said no one in my personal life supervises me, and I supervise no one in my personal life. I explained that my partner had raised the possibility of contacting people at my company to describe me with certain terms. I did not label her, I did not argue. I said I have moved our communications to text to avoid misunderstandings and that I am willing to provide a clean log of logistics if needed. They thanked me for not editorializing. Their next step is to interview the reporting party and assess whether any workplace boundaries are implicated. They also told me not to reply to any public posts and not to meet privately with anyone who attempts to bypass the process. It felt like I had been handed a rulebook in a storm. Right after that meeting, a calendar hold appeared from my girlfriend for logistics talk at the apartment. She added a note that said, "We can solve this in an hour if you stop being corporate." I declined with one sentence. "Please send an item list by text and choose a pickup window. A witness will be present." She replied with 3 eye-roll emojis and, "You are making me escalate." I screen captured the exchange and filed it. My mother called in the afternoon. She said she had heard there was friction and asked if I was sure I wanted to get HR involved. I told her I did not start it, but I am going to follow the process now that it exists. She said she hates that I have become someone who trusts paperwork more than people. I said paperwork is what you use when people disagree about what happened. She said, "You sound like a memo." I said, "I am trying not to sound like a headline." We sat in silence for a few seconds. I love my mother. I also cannot use her version of kindness here. Her kindness is a request for me to pay for quiet. I cannot afford that kind. By evening, the smear had its public face. She posted a black background with white text about financial control being abuse even when it looks tidy, and about workplaces needing to believe women when they speak up. The comments filled with heart emojis and reminders that honesty is brave. One person tagged my company. I felt the floor tilt under me and then flatten when HR emailed to acknowledge the tag, ask me not to engage, and reiterate that any external mentions have been added to the case log. I printed that email and put it in the folder. Holding paper is a way to make sure I do not start breathing in the cadence of the comments. I made one more decision before bed. I emailed my girlfriend a simple plan. 2 pickup windows this weekend with our neighbor present, a request for an itemized list in advance, a sentence saying shared furniture will be handled at a walkthrough with the rental office, a statement that if we cannot agree on a private move-out date within 7 days, I will initiate the building's early termination clause so a neutral office sets the schedule. I put "this is not punishment, it prevents hallway arguments" at the end because I needed that sentence to exist somewhere other than my head. I am not sure my heart rate has dropped below 80 since the HR message landed. I did not sleep. I am eating crackers because anything else feels like a dare. But my actions stayed the same. I did not pay a deposit. I moved everything to text. I gave clean windows with a witness. I routed the complaint to HR and gave them facts. I will use the building's clause if we cannot sign a private plan. I want to be kind. I am learning that fairness is the only kind that survives a cross-examination. Am I the jerk for proactively engaging HR with receipts and for refusing to fund her studio when she implied things would get easier for me at work if I just helped her land? Comment 1. Not the jerk. HR exists for exactly this. Your packet is clean, your language is neutral, and your offer on the lease is fair. Do not meet privately, do not pay the deposit, and let the official processes carry the weight. Comment 2. She tied money to threats about work. That is coercion, not honesty. Keep everything in writing, schedule witness pickups only, and use the building's early termination clause if needed. You are protecting your job and your sanity. Update 2. I thought answering HR quickly would drain the panic. It drained some. What filled the space was a chorus of opinions from people who have never balanced our hydro bill, but feel very sure about love. I made tea and opened a new section in the folder labeled noise. It sounds dramatic to label it that. I needed the word so my brain would not treat every ping as an alarm. My mother started the morning round. She asked if I was absolutely sure I wanted to drag the company into a private matter. I said the complaint already exists, and my choices now are between process and chaos. She said good men keep things off paper. I said good men do not let allegations define them. We both paused. I wished we were talking about the neighbor's dog. She closed with, "Be gracious. Pay the deposit and this ends." I pictured waking up in a studio I funded so she could try a new man and heard something in me say no like a door that knows its hinges. Then the family group chat woke up. An aunt wrote that relationships that last reinvent themselves. A cousin, who was married 3 times by 30, wrote that a small loan for a studio is not a war. A brother-in-law added that people who love rules usually have nothing else to offer. I typed out a sentence about how fairness is not cruelty when two people disagree on reality. I deleted it. I wrote a note to myself instead. Do not litigate feelings with a jury that wants a play. Work crept in from a different direction. A recruiter friend pinged me about a new anonymous comment on a career forum complaining about a controlling senior lead who uses policies as weapons. The city and industry matched mine. It could be about anyone. It did not feel like anyone. A half hour later, a LinkedIn connection request landed from a burner account with no photo, and the headline, "People First." The message asked if my team is safe under my leadership. I did not reply. I forwarded both screenshots to HR under the subject, "External mentions for case log," and wrote a one-line note, adding possible related optics. HR thanked me and reminded me not to engage. I put the printouts in the folder with a paperclip and felt my pulse slow because paper does not gasp. My girlfriend texted that she would like to pick up a few things that afternoon and that I should be decent for once by skipping the witness. I replied with the same text I have been using like a template. Please send the small item list by noon and choose a window. A neighbor will be present. She wrote back, "This is not court." I did not answer. I emailed our neighbor the window options with a thank you and promised coffee. He replied, "I get it. I will be there." I printed that too. I know I sound like a printer salesman. Holding paper keeps me from looking at comment sections. Around lunch, a former colleague called. She said she heard through a grapevine that I might be in trouble and wanted to know if she should distance herself. I told her a very small slice of the truth. I am dealing with an out-of-office allegation that does not involve company policy violations, and HR is following their normal steps. She exhaled in relief like she had been holding her breath for my entire sentence. Then she said, "You are the human checklist guy. They will see that." I laughed for the first time in days. I said I would put that on a mug if my ex had not tried to take it. The pickup window arrived. She showed up with a friend who filmed in the hall and narrated about cold men. Our neighbor stood by, gentle and steady. We checked off a camera, a coat, and 2 books. She asked for the television again and the cast iron set. I repeated the furniture walkthrough plan and the building's policy that staff must be present. She said I was inventing hoops to avoid kindness. The neighbor suggested we write "disputed" next to those items and move on. We did. She held up the checklist to the phone like it was evidence of a crime. I signed and dated it. She left. The hall still smelled like our detergent after. I sat on the floor for 5 minutes and just let the list exist in my hands until my breathing matched the quietly obnoxious hum of the fridge. She posted a story an hour later about financial coercion with a paragraph lifted from a domestic abuse awareness site. The comments told her she was brave. One tagged my company. I sent it to HR. They acknowledged receipt and said the tag had already been captured. They asked me again to avoid public response and to route any messages from colleagues back to them. I said yes. I do not like being asked to trust process. I like it even less when the alternative is trying to win a debate with strangers who think a spreadsheet equals a threat. A small message I did not expect saved my posture that evening. A quiet cousin, the one who never says anything in the family thread, texted me privately. "I am sorry people are performing empathy at you while asking you to sponsor your own humiliation. Clean math is kindness when everyone is heated. I read it twice and then wrote it down in pen on the inside cover of the folder. The words belonged on paper. By late afternoon, a coworker I mentor slacked me to ask if I was okay. She said she did not want to pry, but a vague post was making people curious. I told her I was handling a personal transition and that leaders are judged by how boring they can make a crisis. She sent back a thumbs up and a calendar block for a one-on-one next week labeled boring. I smiled at my screen. Warmth can look like a silly calendar title. 2 more pebbles. I received an email from HR confirming that my initial interview had been logged cleanly and that employee relations would handle any additional inquiry. They reiterated their retaliation policy and reminded me that I can request a temporary reporting change if I feel pressured by rumors. I do not need it yet. Knowing it exists felt like someone put a hand on the back of my chair so I would stop leaning. Then a recruiter I used to work with sent a note about an opening at a competitor. I am not jumping. It was a useful reminder that my value is not held hostage by a story. I put the email in a different folder labeled later. At some point today, I noticed I had stopped writing sorry for the formality in my messages. I did not plan that. It just fell off. I sent her one more logistics email tonight with 2 more windows, the same witness note, and the same line about the building's early termination clause if we cannot agree on a private plan within a week. I ended with, "Please confirm receipt." No apology, no softenings. The sentence felt like a person standing on their feet. I do not have a fresh question because I am not moving the line. I am refusing to fund a second home. I am keeping all logistics in writing. I am routing the complaint to HR and letting them do their job. I am answering family with polite sentences that do not invite debate. I am saying no to anonymous whispers with silence and documented work. I am learning that clarity is a kind of warmth that does not look like hugs but feels like rest. Comment 1. You are doing crisis management correctly. Keep HR looped, ignore the burner accounts, and stick to witness pickups and neutral building processes. Clean math and clear calendars are why you will still have your job and your sanity. Comment 2. The family and gym choir want a show. You are giving them a schedule. Good. Do not pay her deposit, do not debate definitions in the group chat, and stop apologizing for formality. Your language is neutral, and that is power here. Update 3. I did not think the public part would get worse. It did. Yesterday morning, a burner email hit my work inbox from a name that looks like a random keyboard mash. Subject line, Concern Re, Senior Lead. The body pretended to be from a colleague who was terrified to use corporate channels and claimed I isolate women on my team and use policy to intimidate. It referenced 2 meetings that never existed and a crying incident that would have required teleportation because one of the supposed attendees was presenting in another city at that time. The tone was almost right, which is what made it slippery. It leaned hard on words like power and safety. The sender copied a public tip address for a local reporter and my company's generic info address. My throat got tight reading it. I did the only thing I have in my control. I forwarded the email to HR and employee relations with a clean subject, external anonymous message that purports to be from a colleague. I attached calendar screenshots that show where my team actually was on those dates. I attached a short roster to show that the named person never worked under me. I wrote 2 sentences. I will not be responding externally. Please add to the case file. Then I put my hands in my lap so they would not spin the chair. 30 minutes later, HR replied with a preservation request. They asked me not to delete any relevant emails or texts and confirmed they are placing my account and several public mentions under legal hold while they review. They also said they would take over any contact with the reporter and that I should not reply, even to deny. Reading that last line, I felt my rib cage unclench by a notch. Silence is hard for me when my name is in the sentence. Having official silence as a rule feels like a railing on a staircase. At lunch, the smear sprouted a social media head. My girlfriend posted a black tile with a paragraph about corporate charmers who present as kind men while using money to control and policy to harm. A new account that follows her liked it and replied, I am a former colleague, and I saw it. The profile had 3 posts, all recent, and followed only her and 2 wellness influencers. I took screens and sent them to HR with the note, possible linked accounts. HR answered that they had added the handles and timestamps to the log and had already sent a hold request to our platform vendor for relevant content. That last detail is not something I knew companies could do. The smallness of my life felt less exposed when a bigger system was in motion. By late afternoon, employee relations scheduled a formal interview with me for the next morning. They sent a list of topics and asked for any additional documents I wanted in the file. I spent an hour assembling a clean bundle: timeline, lease page, the 3 original texts where she asked for the studio deposit and references work, my replies offering proportional bill splits until a move-out date, the burner email to my work account with my calendar screenshots, the social posts and comments with timestamps, and a short list of team members who can confirm that our one-on-ones are scheduled, not surprise interrogations. I printed the bundle and clipped it. I put a copy in the folder at home and a PDF on a thumb drive in case my laptop died. It was not drama, it was superstition. The logistics at home did not stop just because my inbox turned into a keyword soup. She asked for another pickup outside the window and asked me to be human and skip the witness. I repeated the template: list in advance, window, witness. She sent back, "You are treating me like a criminal." I sent, "I am treating myself like someone who wants to avoid a hallway argument." She did not respond. Our neighbor confirmed he could be present for the next window and wrote, "Deep breath, I will bring coffee." I read that 3 times. It felt like medicine. The formal interview with employee relations felt like a medical intake for an injured reputation. They asked open questions. I answered with nouns, dates, and documents. When they asked if I believed the anonymous email came from my girlfriend or her circle, I said I cannot prove origin, but the content overlaps heavily with public claims that map to our breakup timeline. When they asked if I have ever used my position to control team members' personal finances, I said no and offered to provide written budget approvals showing normal practice. When they asked if I felt safe, I said yes physically, but not reputationally, and asked for a temporary adjustment to my reporting line for any work items that require subjective evaluation, just until the case is closed. They said that was reasonable and confirmed the interim change in writing an hour later. I printed it. I am aware that printing is a ritual at this point. I am equally aware that rituals keep some people upright. After the interview, a direct message arrived on my personal Instagram from an account named HR Truth. It said, "Confess privately and we can make this go away." The grammar was off in a way that felt familiar. I took a screenshot, blocked the account, and sent the image to HR under the same subject line. HR replied, "Received. Do not engage. We will handle takedowns where platform policy allows." I know not everything can be pulled down. It is enough that someone else is turning the wrenches. That evening was the scheduled pickup. She arrived with a friend, no camera this time. My neighbor stood in the doorway with the clipboard. We checked off the list. She tried the television again. I repeated, "Shared items are addressed at the rental office walkthrough." She sighed and said she hopes my team sees who I am behind the smile. I said nothing. I signed and dated the checklist and scanned it into the folder. After they left, I stood in the quiet kitchen and let the checklist be the only voice in the room. Night brought one more flair. A small industry blog posted a paragraph that matched the burner email almost line for line. The byline was "Staff." A coworker texted to ask if I had seen it. I replied with our company's boilerplate: "I am cooperating fully with an internal process, and I have been asked not to comment publicly." He replied, "Understood. Your work speaks for itself." I took a slow breath and went to bed with a book that has nothing to do with policy. This morning, Employee Relations sent a status note. They have interviewed me, collected external mentions, issued legal holds, and will interview the reporting party. They reiterated the retaliation policy in the interim reporting adjustment. They asked me again to route any public or burner messages to them and to continue using witnesses for property exchanges. I wrote back, "Confirmed." One word, no apology. The word felt like a small anchor in a choppy bay. I am not asking for a verdict this time. There is no new moral puzzle to vote on. There is a smear that grew ahead, a fake colleague in my inbox, and a process that is now bigger than my fear. I am going to keep doing the boring things. Witnesses, lists, windows, calendars, not hallways. HR, not comment sections. Silence plus receipts. Comment 1. You handled the fake colleague in the blog exactly right. Forward, preserve, do not engage. Interim reporting change was smart. Keep the bundle clean and let employee relations do the heavy lifting. Comment 2. The folder labeled noise is not dramatic. It is survival. You are not cold. You are careful. Witness pickups and neutral systems are why you will exit with your job and sanity intact. Update 4. Employee relations met with me again this week. I had prepared myself for a gray, indefinite answer that would hang over everything. Instead, the note was precise. They said the anonymous colleague email could not be tied to any current or former employee. The meetings it cited did not exist on any company calendars, and the person named as a tearful witness had never reported to me, nor attended the supposed meeting because she was on a recorded client call in another city. They added that the social posts and burner messages were preserved, but those sit outside our workplace and will be handled only insofar as they affect employee safety or reputations at work. The temporary reporting adjustment stays in place until the case file closes, then the team will revert to normal. They thanked me for sticking to neutral language and clean documents. Reading that, something low in my chest loosened. It was not a parade. It was a door clicking into the frame. Right after that meeting, my girlfriend texted that she is ready to do this with kindness and proposed a private arrangement that looked like a rubber stamp of what I have been refusing for weeks. I pay the apartment in full for 60 days. She moves to a studio, I send her the deposit and first month, and she agrees to stop the noise. She used those exact words and inserted a winking emoji I have come to dislike. I replied with the plan that has not changed. We will keep paying current bills proportionally until a move-out date. If we cannot agree on a private date by Friday at 5, I will initiate the building's early termination clause so a neutral office sets the schedule. Pickups will remain by list and window with a witness. Shared furniture will be inventoried with the rental office. Utilities will be split by screenshots and exact amounts. There is nothing to negotiate about deposits or hush money. She replied within a minute, "You are choosing consequences." I did not respond. I sent the same email to myself that I always send when a message includes that phrase. Subject: boundary was held. Body: repeat plan, mark the time, attached nothing. It sounds odd to email myself. It keeps me from rewriting history when doubt starts dressing up as empathy. By afternoon, she posted a soft focus carousel about leaving a cold home. The second slide contained a cropped screenshot of our checklist from the last pickup with the caption, "Evidence." The part where our neighbor signed as a witness was cut off. I did not correct the record. I sent the post to HR as an external mention into my folder as noise. Then I had a late lunch and answered 3 mundane work emails in a row, letting my day become itself again. Friday at 5 arrived, no private agreement. I emailed the rental office with the early termination clause attached and copied her. The building replied at 9 Monday morning with a move-out date 6 weeks out, a checklist, and the standard fee schedule. I paid my half of the termination fee the same day and sent her the invoice for her half. She wrote, "I will not fund punishment." I did not argue with a noun. I replied, "Please confirm receipt." She left it unread. 2 things happened in the days after that made the room feel less crowded. First, a manager at the gym emailed me to say they had received complaints about coaching circles in the lobby and were reminding staff to keep personal matters out of shared areas. They thanked me for not engaging publicly and told me I am welcome at the club like any other member. Second, a small industry blog that had posted a rumor the week prior quietly replaced the paragraph with a generic note about verifying sources. No apology, no admission. Just a missing brick where a false sentence had been. I will take subtraction over spectacle. We scheduled the furniture walkthrough for a weekday morning with a staff member present. She argued for a Friday evening, so friends can help. I repeated office hours with a staff member. Inventory by clipboard. Disputed items noted. She arrived 10 minutes late with the same two friends who had filmed before. The staffer did not flinch. We walked room to room. Television, disputed. Cast iron set, disputed. Bookshelf, hers. Coffee table, mine. The staffer said, disputed items remain until settlement. My girlfriend rolled her eyes and told her friend, he turns love into math. The staffer smiled politely and said, this is just an inventory. 20 minutes later, we were done. I scanned the checklist when I got home and saved it with the building emails. She tried one more angle, a text that said, if I leave 2 boxes of her clothes for the building porter to ship to her studio, she will stop bothering work people. I read that twice, felt the old flip in my stomach, and replied with the template. We are not bartering. All items must leave during scheduled windows. Shipping is a separate service with a price tag. She responded with, you are unkind. I did not ask the internet to grade my kindness. I offered 2 windows and asked for a list. She used it. The boxes left. The hall smelled like detergent again. Employee relations sent a provisional conclusion at the end of the week. The complaint is unsubstantiated. The report relied on claims that could not be reconciled with calendars, rosters, or policy. External posts have been preserved and will be monitored. They reminded me of the retaliation policy and invited me to reach out if I felt pressured. I printed the email and put it in the folder. Then I decided I would stop printing unless something truly changed. The folder has done its job. It does not need to become a museum. The last remaining item is money. The utilities are separated and scheduled to end on the move-out date. I sent screenshots with the exact amounts due and a simple ledger showing the final split. She has not replied. The building will deduct her unpaid share from her half of the deposit per the lease. I do not need her agreement for that line to hold. The lease makes the math honest, even if the room still tries to perform. My mother called after seeing one of the soft focus posts. She asked if I am happy to be technically correct. I said I am relieved to be accurate. She said fairness is cold. I said fairness is the only kind left when people disagree about reality. We sat in an ordinary silence and then changed the subject to weather. The conversation did not solve anything. It also did not add to the pile. I do not have a new moral question. I have a calendar date, a signed checklist, an itemized fee, and a company note that says the smear did not stick. I am keeping the rest of my energy for the small acts of normal life that got crowded out. I am cooking simple food. I am setting my alarm for the gym in the morning when the light is calm. I am answering emails in full sentences and watching meetings end 5 minutes early. Boring is starting to feel like a skill instead of a wish. Comment 1. This is how you finish without a fire. Neutral building process, staff walkthrough, utilities by screenshot, deposit deductions by lease, and HR closure in writing. No bartering, no off-channel deals, no public fights. You kept the line. Comment 2. The stop the noise if you pay texts were the tell. You did not negotiate with threats, and you let systems do the talking. Scan the last documents, return the keys, and take your quiet. Update 5. I thought the early termination clock would make the last weeks glide. It did not glide. It did click. Every few days, a new little flare tried to pull me off the plan. I kept returning to the calendar and the checklist. The shape of the exit never changed. The building sent the final reminder 1 week out with the move-out date, the walk-through slot, and the deposit rules. I paid my last utility share and sent screenshots with exact amounts. I asked her to confirm receipt. She left me on red and posted a soft caption about cold men who use math to hide from love. I filed it as noise and went to the store for packing tape. Boredom is a choice you pick over and over until it sticks. 2 days later, a new email came from Employee Relations. Subject: Case outcome and safeguards. The body was simple. The complaint was unsubstantiated. They summarized the inconsistencies and reiterated the retaliation policy. They also wrote that legal had issued preservation requests to 2 platforms that hosted copy and paste rumor posts, and that any further contact from burner accounts should be forwarded and ignored. The message was not a parade. It was a stamp. I printed 1 copy for the folder and told myself that would be the last print unless something truly changed. She tried one more round of bargaining through logistics. Leave 2 boxes with the porter and I will stop talking to your colleagues. I read that twice. It is strange how quickly a person can get used to sentences that would have shocked them a month ago. I sent back the same template I have used for weeks. Pickups occur in scheduled windows with a witness. All items leave the unit during the window. Shipping is a separate service with a price tag. She replied, "You are unkind." I did not try to pry kindness loose from that word. I offered 2 windows and asked for a list. She sent it. The items left. My neighbor signed the checklist and made a joke about starting a tiny notary business for apartments that need peace. We laughed like normal people for 15 seconds. 15 seconds felt like an hour. The furniture walkthrough was quick. The staffer with the clipboard moved like he had done this 100 times because he has. Television, disputed. Cast iron, disputed. The staffer added model numbers and said, "Disputed items remain until settlement." My girlfriend's friend held up a phone, but did not record when the staffer asked them not to. 20 minutes later, the sheet had signatures and the apartment had echo. I scanned the sheet at home and filed it. Then I opened a window and let the room air out, because even a neutral exit collects a smell. Move-out day arrived like a date, not a scene. She came in the first hour, emptied her closet, took 2 boxes of bathroom items, and left without speaking. I cleaned the oven, wiped the baseboards, and rolled the last trash bag to the chute. When I turned in my keys, the office scanned them with a beep that sounded like punctuation. The manager handed me the deposit checklist and said, "Your part is done." 4 words that felt like furniture settling after a truck stops. The deposit itemization arrived 2 days later. The building deducted the early termination fee we had split, a cleaning service, and her unpaid utilities from her share. The remainder went to our accounts. She texted me the word cold again. I did not reply. The only weather I am treating is the one inside my calendar. The smear kept shedding pieces. The small industry blog replaced its rumor paragraph with a bland note about updating posts for accuracy. No admission, just subtraction. A burner account tried one more message that said, "Confess and we will stop." HR logged it, sent a short takedown request where platform policy allowed, and reminded me not to reply. My team treated me the way people treat someone who has always answered emails on time. There were no whispers in the hallway. A senior director stopped by my desk to ask if a timeline grid could be simplified for a client deck. That tiny ask did more for my heart rate than any statement with my name in it. My mother gave me one last round of refrigerator magnet philosophy. She said, "I hope being technically correct keeps you warm at night." I said, "It helps me sleep." She sighed and told me her mint plant is finally thriving because she stopped overwatering it. We both heard the metaphor. Neither of us said it out loud. She mailed me a tin of cookies with a card that said, "She is proud I bought a sofa that matches nothing from the old place." Pride through decor is still pride. I can accept it without translation. A quiet friend in the gym circle sent me a DM that simply said, "They are doing fewer lobby pep talks." She added a screenshot of a trainer memo reminding staff to keep personal conversations off the floor. I do not need the trainer to face any cinematic consequence. I need to lift a bar without a speech behind me. That is already true again. I switched to early mornings. The light is kind at that hour. Work gave me a small, significant signal at the end of the week. My manager called me into a quick one-on-one and said, "Thank you for how boring you made a non-boring situation." He said the interim reporting adjustment will end next month when legal closes the last administrative thread. Then he asked about my roadmap for the next quarter. We talked about deadlines and client handoffs and how to make the new junior hire successful. It was the exact conversation I would have wished for on a random Tuesday 6 months ago. I walked out feeling like a person who was trusted for the things she used to tease me about. Steady. I signed a short lease on a place closer to the office so I can sleep instead of drive. It is not a statement apartment. It is a chair by a window, a table that fits dinner for 1 or 2, and a kitchen that no longer hosts legal strategy. I made pasta, put my phone face down, and noticed that nothing in the room was vibrating for my attention. Quiet is not a miracle. It is a set of choices repeated until they become furniture. I will not ask a verdict here. The question already answered itself in documents and dates. I refused to fund a second household. I moved everything to text. I used the building's neutral clause. I routed the smear to HR and let employee relations handle the work parts. I turned in the keys, scanned the last sheet, and walked out. The consequence for her is that the building did the math and the gym shut the lobby stage. The consequence for me is that my hands do not shake when I pay my bills. I can live with that split. Comment 1. You finished exactly right. Neutral systems, documented utilities, staff walkthrough, deposit deductions by the lease, and HR closure. No bartering, no side deals. That is not cold, that is safe. Comment 2. Thank you for how boring you made a non-boring situation is the whole win. You kept your job, your sanity, and your budget. Return the keys, keep the folder, and enjoy the quiet you built. Final update, 11 months later. 11 months is long enough for everything loud to shrink to its true size. When I wrote the first post, I could hear my pulse in my ears, and I thought every ping on my phone had the power to tilt my life. I still keep a folder from that time. It lives in a drawer I do not open often. I do not need it to sleep. I keep it to remind myself that clear lines can hold when people push them. I moved twice. The short sublet near the office let me catch my breath. In month 3, I signed a lease for a small one-bedroom on a quiet street. Nothing matches on purpose. The chair by the window is secondhand, and the coffee table has a dent that looks like a comma. Saturday mornings, I sit in the sun for 20 minutes and do not check anything. That would have sounded like neglect to me a year ago. It turns out to be care. Work settled first. Employee relations closed the last administrative thread 2 quarters ago. My manager ended the temporary reporting adjustment and thanked me for being boring during a not boring period. At mid-year, I received a raise tied to client renewals, and the way my team's timeline started ending 5 minutes early. The phrase on my review was clarity and follow-through. Those were the exact traits I was told were cold in my personal life. Hearing them valued in a room that signs my paycheck did something quiet and permanent to my posture. People sometimes ask about my former manager and the rumor that briefly grew ahead. I do not run his career, and I do not read the small industry blog anymore. What I know is public. He moved into an individual contributor role in a different group and now teaches documentation workshops twice a quarter. HR rolled out a refreshed module on conflicts of interest and retaliation. The scenario about a supervisor dating a partner of an employee reads like a cautionary tale, not a movie. That is exactly right. Work should be built from rails, not plot twists. The gym returned to being a place where people count their own reps. Management kept a reminder about personal matters out of shared areas. I changed my schedule to mornings before work. The trainer is sometimes there. We look past each other the way you look past a mirror you do not need. A friend in the circle told me the lobby pep talks ended after members complained. No fallout that smells like theater. Just the removal of a stage that never should have existed. My mother and I found a new pattern. She still believes fairness is cold. I still believe fairness is the only kind left when people disagree about reality. We talk on Sundays about the neighbor's cat and her mint plant, which is finally thriving because she stopped overwatering it. I hear the metaphor. She does too. We let it sit between us without turning it into a speech. In December, she mailed a tin of cookies and a card that said, "She is proud I bought a sofa that matches nothing from the old place." Pride through decor is still pride. I can receive it without chasing the version I wish he would send. I dated slowly. Coffee, a museum with bad signage and good light, a walk where the wind made us talk faster to stay warm. I told one person the short version. We wanted different rules. I finally kept mine. She said that sounded simple and difficult at the same time. We have seen each other a few more times without trying to name it. I am learning that my version of romantic is consistent calendars, a clean kitchen sink, and showing up when I said I would. That looks small on paper. In practice, it holds. About the folder in the drawer. I took one afternoon a month ago and removed 3 items I no longer need. A printout of a blog rumor that was later replaced by a blank paragraph. A screenshot of a burner message that says, "Confess privately." A soft focus caption about cold men and math. I put those in a separate envelope labeled "Past Noise" and walked them to the shred bin in the lobby. It felt ceremonial in a way I did not expect. I did not keep them for future arguments. I kept them long enough to teach myself the difference between proof and hooks. The lesson stuck. The paper could leave. I have not spoken to my ex since the keys turned in. A mutual friend says she cycles through short declarations about honesty and bravery and still posts quotes that treat boundaries as cruelty when they do not bend. I wish her a life that does not require a villain to feel like growth. That wish does not include me as a funding source or a foil. Wishing well at a distance is a skill I did not have a year ago. There is a small list in my phone that I wrote for future me. It is titled, "When the Room Gets Loud." It has 5 lines. Write the facts while they are still sharp. Keep logistics in text and email. Use witnesses and neutral offices for exchanges. Let HR and leases carry the weight you cannot. Do not buy peace you cannot afford to keep. I read that list once in a while, not because I am bracing for a repeat, but because I like the way those lines sound like a person who trusts himself. If you are waiting for justice described as something cinematic, I cannot give you that. Justice here arrived as subtraction. Fewer whispers, fewer lobby scenes, fewer tasks on my calendar that are actually someone else's emotions. My punishment, according to some, is that I did not rescue a story that wanted a different ending. My consequence is a kitchen that does not also host strategy, a job that values the traits that kept me upright, and a chair that fits me. There is one more thing worth saying out loud. The part of me that apologized for being formal is quiet now. Formality is not a costume I wear to scare people. It is a set of habits that keep me from becoming someone I do not recognize when rooms get hot. Clarity is not unkind. It is what you give both people so the next hour can be lived without rehearsal. So this is the epilogue, not because a judge banged a gavel or a villain was destroyed, but because the room is finally the right temperature. I go to work, I lift in the morning, I water a plant that refuses to die, and I sit in the sun for 20 minutes with coffee that tastes like a small prize. No one is grading me for picking quiet. No one is asking for a deposit in exchange for peace. I do not need to prove my heart to a comment section or win a debate to deserve my own calm. The story ends here because there is nothing left to manage. The folder in the drawer can keep sleeping. The calendar tells the truth. The key on my ring opens a door that leads to a room that breathes. That is enough. That is enough. That is enough. That is enough.